Welcome to Theme Park Academy, brought to you in partnership with Blue Loop. It's a dive into the world of themed attractions with us as we bring you the inside scoop from voices within the industry. Now, whether you're tackling big issues or examining how decisions are made within this field, maybe you're just new to the industry. The aim of this podcast is to create a unified space that everybody can learn from, including ourselves. So join us on this exciting journey into the heart of theme parks, and let's get started.
Thanks, Mark. Hey, everybody, I'm Adam Sandy, and
I'm Mark Loftos.
As you can tell, things are still a little rough. This is our first podcast together, but it's something that I've been thinking of for a while, and I actually brought Mark on. I've always been interested in the attraction industry. Mark and I are both really big fans of it, but also professionals in the industry. And it just felt like a really good way for me, at least, to get to talk to people who are sort of outside of my day-to-day, and I can learn and educate myself. And I think for Mark, it's much the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was over the moon when you asked me to be part of this with you, and I think I've been on quite a few podcasts before and spoke to so many people. And a key part of this industry with learning and kind of growing is networking and finding out new people and speaking to as many people as you can. So for me, Adam, I think it was great that you asked me to be part of it because it kind of opens that door to be able to speak to so many more people and learn from them, and equally, hopefully, people learn from us as well. And I'm really excited for what we've got to come.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing to me is that, I've been in the industry, it's kind of scary, over 20 years now. And I was part of that generation that really was, early internet. So, a digital adopter, not native. And as I started getting into really roller coasters, amusement parks, and understanding, liking the business was sort of when that late 90s big boom happened. We had the coaster wars. You had a lot of people online for the first time. And it was really interesting because for me, I was actually on message boards with Jakob who's now, running IAPA, with Andreas at Liseberg, Mark at 3DX, and a bunch of other people who are kind of my age peers that really started out in the industry as fans, but really that online component was really interesting. So I'm using this as just a chance to talk to a lot of professionals, some younger, some older, just to sort of broaden my horizons again. And this felt like a great vehicle to do it.
Excellent. It's really interesting that you mentioned that about online forums kind of back in the day, because I was part of quite a lot of online forums with it. And it's quite amazing to see how many of us back then are actually in the industry now in some way or another. And it does show that if you've kind of got the yearning to make it, so to speak, and you've really got the push that you want to be involved in this industry, you can do it. And I think it's great that Adam, like you said, it's great that we've seen these people that are now in incredible positions and doing so well at what they do. And we all kind of started on forums. We all started for a love for the industry. And I know we're going to talk about that a little more shortly. But it is great to see.
It's definitely exciting. And just so you guys know, sort of our format going forward is going to be really short form. We're thinking 15 to 20 minutes. And it's really conversations with, movers and shakers in the industry, but really narrowing down on things. So there are a lot of great podcasts out there. If you want a broad overview of the industry or to understand the arc of someone's career, what Mark and I are really trying to do is dig down on specific details, whether it's understanding the theming of a certain area or why ride installation costs have gone up recently. There are a lot of different topics we're going to talk about that some are really theme park direct and some are theme park adjacent. Mark has a huge background in haunts and that whole segment. Obviously, there's a lot of crossover there with theme parks. So we think we're going to touch on a lot of areas that are really interesting to both professionals in the industry as well as fans.
So I know some of the questions some people might be asking now, Adam, is why us two, and why listen to a podcast with us two talking about this. So let's give them a bit of a background on all of our listeners, a bit of a background on how we work, what we do, and kind of why we got in this. Adam, do you want to go first and tell us a little bit about you and your work?
Sure. So like I said, I was the weird kid who was always interested in amusement parks. So, as I always say, like, some kids are interested, at least in the US, in baseball. That's a huge thing as you're a kid. I think younger kids are more now into European football. But that's something that sports were fun for me, but for some reason I was always drawn to parks. And my parents were always kind enough to sort of, honor that obsession. And we would always add on a day when we visited someplace like Florida or California. They'd always do a park day for me. And it was really something that, I don't know why, but it just was always interesting to me and sort of drew me in.
Amazing. So what is it you do now? What is your job role, and how is that how does that feed in with why you love this industry and why you decided to go into that role?
Yeah, so my role now is I'm the roller coaster sales and marketing director for Zamperla. And like I said, I've been in the industry since 2001 now. I actually started out selling advertising for amusement business back when that was a thing. So that was actually a news weekly that served the industry. I know it's very strange to think of a weekly print newspaper being the heartbeat of the industry, but it was. And so I started there, and then a few years later, my employer, which turned into business partner, hired me to work at Ride Entertainment, and I was kind of effectively employee number 2 there, and grew that for a long time. And then COVID happened. We sort of all know what happened in our industry during COVID, and then I left and actually just happened to join Zamperla a few months later. So it's been kind of a long time, I guess, looking back now. It's kind of scary to think that I'm halfway through my career or more so, but it's been a lot of fun.
Brilliant. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your job role that you have with Zamperla? So what does I know every day must be different, but does a general day kind of exist for you?
Yeah, my day to day is definitely different because I sort of have this unique role that was created and they found me. So I work with our sales team. We have a pretty large sales team globally, big base in Italy, but also several offices around the world. And so I work with all those sales team members as well as all the engineers in our roller coaster business unit and our marketing team to think about how do we not only create new concepts, how do we sell those, and then how do we share our story with the industry? And so those are sort of the 3 big issues that I try to tackle on a daily basis. But you're right, day to day, it is certainly different. And it's a really fun thing because it's worldwide, but that also sort of creates unique challenges with, when we have holidays here, it's not holidays other places. When it's nighttime here, it's not nighttime other places. So it's always been a global industry. And I recognize that, but I've seen that even more so just working day to day here at Zamperla.
That's amazing. I think it's nice to hear similarities. I don't know, we've spoke about this kind of offline before, but we've got quite similar ways that we got into this industry, where it wasn't sort of a clean cut way that many people offer now, which is we went to university or we went to college and studied themed attractions. That wasn't really there when we wanted to get into the industry. Yeah. It's quite a recent thing. So it's great to hear that we are quite similar, where we've weaved a path into this industry to become who we are, and the work that we're doing now has all been led to by doing these different roles and different responsibilities within the industry.
How did you really get started in all this?
Mine's a bit of an eclectic one. So I started out as an actor, funnily enough. So I've been in the themed attraction industry since I was 16. And I started as an actor with a scare entertainment company. I know you talked about the haunt side of it before. So I started as an actor, funnily enough, a scare actor. And then I just started to work my way up, is the best way to do it. So I started getting a lot more experience designing attractions, designing scare mazes and haunts. And then at one point during Halloween, I was maybe 18 or 19 years old. I was working with a brilliant company, and we had something ridiculous, like 16 or 17 different haunts operating in one Halloween season. So I was kind of creatively leading that with the director of the company, and I gained so much experience by doing it. But I had to move away from that at one point. I've been quite open about speaking about this online, but when you're working in horror 365, it can really take a toll on you. So you're creating purposefully negative experiences, right? That's the point in a haunt. But when you're designing that 365, it starts to like take a toll on you and become part of you. So
kind of wears on you a little bit.
Yeah, I just became one of the monsters that we've been creating. So I decided to move away from that, and then I went into event management at Safari Park. Then subsequently after that, I was an operations manager of a park.
Okay.
And then I've got such an eclectic mix of skills that I've gained over time. And now I'm a creative director for a themed attraction design company, and we design and build themed attractions. And we work very closely with the Hasbro teams to do themed attraction concepts for them. And yeah, that's kind of what I work on at the moment. So my job role, similar to yours, is so different day in, day out. I can be doing anything from contacting concept artists to work with them and kind of come up with an idea, right through to pitching ideas with clients and also with brands to pull all of the concepts together. So no 2 days are ever different, and that's why I love the job that I do now. It just keeps me on my toes every day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think it's fun how you sort of carved your own path too. It's interesting how our industry, people who may not be in it don't know. There's so many people, whether they're freelancers or really jump from company to company just because the work changes, the business changes. And often, as we've seen with sort of a rise in business in China, now the Middle East, the location can change too. So we do see people jump around to a lot of different roles and a lot of different companies.
Absolutely, and I think for me as well, Adam, it's the fact that I couldn't design the work and design the attractions that I do now without having the operational mindset and the experience that I have. Um, there's so many amazing creatives in the world, but it's very from a creative point of view that things are designed, which actually sometimes doesn't mean it's feasible to actually deliver that project. So I'm very fortunate that I've kind of, in hindsight, it wasn't on purpose. I'm not gonna stress that at all. But in hindsight, I'm really glad that I've done these different experiences because it's kind of shaped the creative that I am now. I've got more of a broad understanding of what works, what's functional, what isn't, about target demographics and everything like that. I've learned a lot over the past. That's kind of helped me. And similar to you, the reason I got into this industry, and like you said, people move a lot, and there's a lot of freelancers. They move from different roles, but we all share the same common thread, which is we love this industry, and that's why we do it. And the reason I'm doing what I am is I've got such amazing memories of being a kid, and my dad. I was very fortunate that my dad used to take me to a lot of theme parks, and I've got such amazing, vivid memories of being really young. But the strongest memories I've got of being a child were at theme parks, and it's the one reason that I do it now, because I've just got such a love for them. And there's sadly family members that aren't here anymore that I used to have really good times with at theme parks. So I've got this true emotional connection with the industry and the work that I do. And that does follow across. The more people you speak to, the reason we're in this weird and wonderful industry is that we've all got such a strong bond with it and emotional connection. And it definitely defines how we work and why we still do the work that we do in this crazy world.
Yeah, and I know Hershen Family Entertainment, like they own Dollywood, like they one of their corporate slogans is making memories worth repeating. And I've always thought that was a really great kind of concept of our industry in a nutshell, really, is that we do things that just speak to so many people around the globe, different cultures, different demographics, different income levels, but so many people are drawn to the experiences that our industry offers and also the memories that they create, which I think is something that now that I'm a professional here is really fun to be a part of
that. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that slogan could have got any better if it tried to. It does really sum it up. And I think for me, we crave escapism. Everybody does. We know what our general lives are like. We go to work, we come home, we cook dinner, we go to sleep or whatever. We crave escapism. We go to theme parks because we want to escape for 6 to 8 hours from what we're used to and our standard way of living. And that's why I love what we do, because we can create that true escapism moment for people. We can take them out of any stresses that they have within their life. We can take them out of that and put them into our little safe bubble of a world that we've created, whether that is a roller coaster, whether that is a drop tower, whether that is a water park or a full theme park or an immersive theatre experience. The fact that we can take people out of the stresses that they have and create this little perfect bubble for them for 6 to 8 hours, whatever that may be. That's why I love what we do, because you can see firsthand the effect that has in a positive way on people.
I totally agree. I mean, for me, it's even like I took my kids down to King's Dominion on Sunday. I've taken my kids to a lot of theme parks. It's partly because it's something I enjoy, but it's something they've really grown to enjoy too. Like it's their thing. And so since I travel so much for work, that's actually turned into what I do just to give my wife a break since I travel a lot and I get time with the kids just because I'm a
Yeah,
firm believer that even if you spend time at home, it's still doing the homework, laundry, dishes, all those kind of routine day-to-day things that are very mundane. And to get to go with the kids to an amusement park, and Kira just turned 48 inches, so 120 centimeters for the rest of the world. And it's such a big number, in the amusement park
yeah.
world, because now she can ride so many more coasters. So we had a blast, and she rode 7 coasters, I think, that day that she couldn't have 6 months ago. So just that family time and those memories, I know for me and hopefully for them, are something that I'll hold on to for a really long time.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think, do you remember when you reached certain height milestones? I know this is a bit of a tangent, but I've still got vivid memories of when I was able to ride certain coasters, and that stuck with me all of my life. And I can remember certain times that I could finally get on a certain coaster. Do you remember that? I've got such vivid memories.
I don't, because I was so scared to ride roller coasters. I actually didn't start
Oh,
riding till I
really?
was much. I mean, I was in many ways a bizarre child, but I was, someone who was really interested in them, was petrified of them. But I distinctly remember I rode the Screaming Eagle at Six Flags St. Louis when I was finally like, "Oh, I guess I'll give it a try," and then I loved it, and I was kind of an addict after that. But it was something that it was very strange, where I'd always been interested in them. Like I read The Great American Amusement Park by Gary Curiozzi. And I remember around the same time that I saw that, there was a article in Popular Mechanics by the actor, I think it was an actor and writer, George Plimpton. It was on like the 5 sort of best roller coasters around. It was the Cyclone at Coney Island, the new Shockwave and Six Flags Great America, the Beast and Riverside Cyclone, maybe 1 or 2 others that were all kind of the heavy hitters of the mid 80s. And I just remember seeing the picture of the Coney Island Cyclone, and my dad grew up going to Coney Island. So that was like, oh, I started asking about that and what was it like? And he told me about what it was like for him. And then I talked to his mother, who grew up going to Palisades and also Olympic Park. And I think it was just that interesting combination for me of history as well as technology that really drew me in and just was really fascinating for me.
That's amazing. I think you're not the first person in the themed attraction industry who was scared of roller coasters or scared of going on them. And I'm
Mhm.
sure, Adam, I'm sure you've met plenty of people in this industry as well who had that as a child.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really interesting how it's sort of something that I think myself and a lot of people overcame, and then now they love it. So it's a lot of fun to do what I do day to day, and to get to work on projects that I see kids kind of, whether they're taking their first big roller coaster like that, or
Yeah,
even their first roller coaster. It's just always fun to see them doing that with parents or friends.
absolutely. It is great to sort of hear that we have very similar beliefs within the themed attraction industry. And actually, this does go across the board, and I'm sure you'll agree, Adam, that the more people you speak to, and obviously we've got some great guests lined up for the rest of this season, and I'm sure they'll say the same, that being able to share that same feeling that we had back then is a true driving motivation for why we do this now, and our aim for the future.
No, definitely. I've talked to so many professionals who, whether they love it because of their own families or they get to watch guests, like there's a definite passion from so many people in this industry, and that's really why I'm so excited to talk to people from a bunch of different facets of it. Just because there are a lot of different things that our industry does, but one kind of underlining theme is that so many people just love what they do day in, day out, and they love providing those memories for people.
That's excellent. I'd love to sort of hear from our listeners as well as to what the reason they're involved in the industry is. I find it fascinating to learn why people do what they do, and I'd love to hear from some of our listeners as well, as to why they're involved in this industry and what is the true driving force behind that. And at the end of this show, we'll tell you how you can get in contact with us. But we'd love to hear from you as well as to why you do what you do.
All right, this section is called Park Pulse, and this is where we're not going to get in the weeds, but sort of hit some of the big business decisions that were made in our industry since the last show. And like, obviously, we have not had a show yet, so we're just talking about a few of the big pieces of news that have happened recently. So the first is that recently Six Flags shareholders approved the sale to Cedar Fair, so that will be a merger, and that will be one of the largest theme park chains in the world. So obviously reshaping the American market quite a bit. So I'm really interested to see what moves Six Flags Cedar Fair, whether that's Cedar Flags or whatever that looks like, take shape, and how they sort of attack the North American market as they complete this merger and move forward.
It is very exciting. It is very exciting to see. In my news, Merlin Entertainments are set to introduce dynamic pricing, which is the first time that they've looked at it, and it's an incredibly interesting move for the business. So similar to how airlines price their tickets, where on the peak pricing, peak times, the pricing will go up, and obviously off-peak times, the pricing will come down. They're due to roll this out across the Madame Tussauds brand, Lego Land Parks, and also the Sea Life aquariums as well. So I think it's 20 attractions that they're looking to roll this out by the end of the year. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that works for them, and if they move on to theme park resorts next.
And compounding that, I do think, I know everyone says that like AI is the answer to everything right now. It's like the big buzzword, but with the ability of using tools like AI and better computing power, just practically speaking, I do wonder if we'll see more of this at more attractions, whether it's parks, attractions, other things, because the cost of figuring that out is going to come down exponentially over the next 5 years. So a big piece of news in my side of the world was the news about Disney and activist investor Nelson Peltz. Peltz tried to get seats on Disney's board and was voted down. In fact, it was an overwhelming majority voted for Iger's slate after the voting was revealed. Economist Scott Galloway said that you really actually knew the voting ahead of time, because in situations like this, the board and the chairman won't put it up to a vote. They'll actually not vote because the kind of opposing party has the votes. And in this case, because it went to a vote, it was actually pretty well known that Iger probably had the count. And in fact, his slate won in a huge majority. So it'll be really interesting to see, now that sort of sideshow is taken care of, where Disney goes. Obviously, Disney Plus is big in their crosshairs for investment, and the parks are kind of the nice foil to that. Disney himself always saw the parks as sort of a flywheel for the brands, and it'll be interesting to see where they take this, merging Hulu into Disney Plus, as well as the big park investments they have planned, and what the overall brand looks like over the next decade.
I think it's been a really interesting time for Disney over the past, let's say, year. There's been so many sort of changes at that senior level, and I think we are still quite early in the process to see what any repercussions of that may be yet. So I think it'll be, I'm quite looking forward to the future with them, because I think there's going to be some really good things that come out of the company as a whole over the next couple of years. So it'll be really interesting to see.
Definitely. And for the park side investment, those are always long-term plans. So we won't see that for a while, but I bet they did do some announcements kind of right after that about the Florida investment and others, and they recently got the Disneyland approval. So I will think in the next couple of years, we're going to hear about what those look like and kind of the direction they're going to take, and also how they're integrating like that huge, great brand collection they have, how they integrate those into the various properties.
It's definitely one to keep our eye on, isn't it?
For sure.
And then finally from me, it has been mentioned that Santa Fe-based company Meow Wolf, which produced the incredible art installations, they've announced that they're sadly cutting 165 jobs across their entire business just to conserve around 10% of expenditure. Now, Jose Tolosa, Meow Wolf CEO, said that reducing our workforce in order to the right size for the business will fund the growth and obviously continue driving their future success. So it's an incredibly difficult decision for them to make, and I'm guessing it wasn't done lightly by any of them. And especially in this world of themed attractions, we know how hard it is at this moment in time for businesses. So our thoughts just go out to all those that are affected by the redundancies. But it is quite a significant saving to be had from the company.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see again sort of where does Meow Wolf take this? Do they stay static? Do they try and grow after this? I'm really curious where now that they've had to make that decision, where they want to take the company, because they did lose so many people who'd sort of built that artistic brand behind it.
Absolutely. I think from the outside, they've rapidly expanded. So it'll be quite interesting and telling to see how far that expansion goes now and if that starts to slow down. But it seemed like there was Meow Wolves popping up in most of the big cities in the US. So it'll be, yeah, I think it's one to keep our eye on to see where that company goes now. So this section is now the fast pass round, and the idea behind it is that we're going to ask the same 3 questions to every guest that we have on, just to get a bit of a flavour about what they like and things that they enjoy. So, Adam, first question for you is: what is your favourite amusement or theme park?
I think I got to go with the OG on this one. I do love Disneyland. So there are a lot of great parks out there, but I think the things that make it, really quote unquote problems they fix, like width of pathways and other things, make it feel very intimate. And I just always enjoy visiting. So I have to say that, although after having visited the 2 Tokyo properties last summer, they are a very close second on my list. How about you?
Good choices. Mine is split between two
Okay.
parks, and I can never kind of judge which one I like. Both of them for several reasons, but mine is between Fantasyland and Europa Park.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I love both of them is they're so excessive in a good way. Fantasyland is the most enclosed environment that you can be in for themed attractions. I love it, especially outside of the realms of Disney and Universal. It is just incredible. And Europa Park is just so grand and everything's really high quality and very enjoyable. So I'm going to have to say Fantasyland.
Good choices. Good choices. Solid. Solid. And I'll
Hard
kick it
choice.
back to you again while you're choosing. What would you say is your favorite attraction overall?
Ooh. I'm going to go with a roller coaster for this. So the way I always plan it in my head is that if something was next to something else, which one would I pick to go on? That's how we get a top 10 roller coasters, isn't it? So I'm going to say Taron at Fantasyland for this. And the reason behind that is it's the overall package for me.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it's nostalgia because I had such an amazing trip the first time I went there. But for me, it's great hardware. It's truly immersive theming. And then when you combine it with the restaurants and things around it, I love the ride and I think it's a great package. But how about you?
I have not been on Terran. I want to go on it. So that is on my list of coasters to ride. For me, I'll split this one. I'll be lazy and not choose one. So I'd say for old school technology, I do love Phoenix at Knoebels. It is just traditional wooden roller coaster that is wonderfully lovingly maintained. So kind of just classic wood coaster at its best, very relatively speaking, low tech, straightforward, but you know what you're going to get, and it sort of delivers in the best way possible. On the high tech side, I'm really torn between Rise the Resistance and Tower of Terror, the Florida version. Like those two, for when they open, just to me really demonstrate that great combination of theming, technology, and ride systems. And I love both of those immensely.
They're such good choices. Tower of Terror always holds like a really soft spot in my heart. It's just, I love anything horror or mildly horror related anyway.
Uh-huh.
And I just think as an overall package, the Florida one is just incredible. It's an amazing piece of work. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question then. So Adam, what is a key trend that you can see happening within the theme park industry in the next 5 or so years?
I think it might happen earlier, but for me, I think it's probably going to be the death of VR. Like I recognize that technology is changing, evolving, but honestly, I think if it's going to go a direction, it's going to pivot toward AR as opposed to VR. I can see that sort of digital immersion within a physical space, whether that is on a haunt application, traditional dark ride through. I can see that making sense. I think VR, even if the tech gets better, I don't see that coming back as sort of a practical application day to day in amusement park experiences. How about you?
Oh, I'll come on to something VR in a moment because it is very true. It is very, very, very true what you mentioned. For me, I think there is going to be a resurgence in dark ride experiences.
Okay.
And there's a bit of a trend at the moment that even smaller regional parks are looking at dark ride experiences, especially in Europe. And I can't quite put my finger on why it's happening, but it seems like there's this big sort of 90s resurgence of dark ride experiences. I'm here for it. I'm so happy for it. But it's really interesting to see more and more being built at the moment. When it comes to VR, like you just mentioned, I think what is really interesting is some clients that I'm dealing with who are theme parks, who have a history of working in the digital realm and having touch points in a digital world for their visitors. They're moving away from that and asking for physical and everything to be tactile and physical on site. And it's really interesting that 3 projects that I've been involved with recently have all said it needs to be tactile,
Oh, interesting.
and it needs to be in the real world. And it's really interesting that actually the metaverse and a digital world is growing stronger, arguably, but more people, especially in the themed attraction industry, are moving back towards physical. It's really interesting to see. So I definitely think you're onto something there.
And I think that makes sense though too, because especially during COVID, that sort of accelerated our use of screens and screen time and having things delivered, via our phones really. And I think that a lot of guests are now wanting when they go to amusement parks, because you can do gaming at home and gaming is fantastic at home. You can do digital experiences, whether it's on the TV or on your phone, but just that practical part of going to an amusement park and touching the buttons on Dumbo and going up and down or riding a roller coaster. Yeah. Like, I do think that one area for success for traditional parks is they can't do the things that in-home media can do. And there's no real reason to compete with that. Like, you can do VR at home or at a park, and I think the VR experience is the same or maybe better at home. You can't do a roller coaster at home is what I would say. If you're going to be 200 feet in the air, screaming your head off, that's an experience that is very bespoke to amusement parks. And I think that we're going to see a lot of people sort of dive into what we do best over the next couple of years too, because we can just offer that experience that you can't do with your kids at home, but you can get in the car and go with your kids or your friends to the park, experience that thrill. And that is something that really sets us apart from most other entertainment offerings around the world.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think you touched on something really, really strongly there. The fact that you can take people with you and go and experience this together. Shared experience is the reason we do this. Shared experience is the reason we go to theme parks, to have that same feeling that other people are having and connecting us together. And I do think that's potentially why digital is moving slightly away, that people want to be in the real world connecting together.
Yeah. Because like even with last week and with my kids, I want to be I was on the app using that interface, but I wasn't on my phone a whole lot outside of that. It was really to get things done, not to keep me entertained, where so much of life right now is using your phone to keep you entertained. So I do think that we have a very good space there if the parks are smart enough to exploit that niche they have. So our last section is exit through the gift shop. What would you like us to cover in future podcasts? Is there anyone specifically you'd love us to talk to? Get in touch with us via Blue Loop or follow our socials. And if you'd like to follow me, I'm at Roller Coaster Sales Guy on Instagram, and you can follow me professionally at Zamperla Coasters on Instagram, and also reach out on LinkedIn. Mark is on LinkedIn at MarkLoftCD or on X at MarkLoftCD. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thanks so much to Blue Loop for working with us. Be sure to check out Blue Loop for all the latest news on the attractions industry. And then until next time, we're Adam and Mark, and we look forward to seeing you again.